is up, everybody, and welcome to Dharma Time here on WPSN99.com. As always, I'm your host, the Dharma Guy, joined with, let me pull him up, the Dope Doctor. What's up, man?
Hey, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing well. No, you know what? I'm doing swell. I don't know why I wanted to use that word today.
Threw an S in there, huh?
That's right. I'm doing swell.
Mhm.
I wanted to
Well,
work that into conversation somehow.
there's very few times you could probably do that.
Exactly. Um, but anyways, so welcome everybody. For those of you who are watching live via facebook.com/WPSN99, we are a little bit later than normal. We're about a half hour late because the Dope Doctor is a very popular individual and he's got a very full schedule. So we're thankful for him to squeeze in an hour with us today. Um, so we had to do a little bit later than 1 o'clock to accommodate his schedule. So here we are. For those of you who are watching this recorded, it's just a normal day for you, I'm assuming. Anyways, and we're able to do this because, as you can see behind him, if you're watching this live, or if you're listening, it is the Now Matters More Foundation, of which, of course, I, as always, am the president, and he is the founder, and we help individuals struggling with the disease of addiction. If you need some help with that, if you don't know who to turn to, who to call, if you're overwhelmed, reach out to us. You can go to nowmattersmore.org and you can check out who we are. You can fill out an application for help, or you can mash that donate button. We always love donations. Or if the phone is more your preference, you can call 833 Now Matters. That's 833 Now Matters, and we'll help you. We'll do what we can. That's what we do. So, first and foremost, I heard a rumor there's a cold front coming through here. I'm calling BS on that. It's like 3 degrees cooler, so I'm going to. I have a bone to pick with anybody who said this was cooler. Secondly, Patrick Mahomes is amazing. I just
Woo.
watched the game last night. Yes, I'm very thankful the sports are back on. I was finally able to get over my irkness, if you will, of the political stances that I'm being forced to watch through my sporting. And I was able to actually just enjoy competition. And man, last night was really good. Patrick Mahomes is the real deal. I mean, it's just I want to hate him because I'm a 49ers fan and they spanked us in the Super Bowl, but I just can't, dude. Like, game has to recognize game, and that dude is just
The
he's
whole
something
pack.
special. Yeah,
It's
he
the
is something
whole pack.
special, man. Um,
It's
I
cool
feel
to see like Kyler Murray and you see Lamar be able to do parts of what he does,
yeah.
but they don't do the whole thing that he does.
Yeah, I don't say this very often, man, and I can't recall a football player me saying this about, but I feel privileged to be able to say that I've watched him play. You know what I mean? Like 20, 30 years from now, when people are talking about stuff, I'm going to be able to say, yeah, I watched him when he came in the league. Like I'm
Right.
proud to be able to tell people I watched Jordan play. I even saw him
Right.
live. Um, and as far as football's concerned, I mean, Mahomes is, I mean, the dude's good, man. He's
But
just, I,
but
I
can,
don't know what else to say
but
other
can
than
you
he's just,
say you've seen Jordan live play basketball and baseball?
I cannot, no.
I can.
No. And sadly, I was only able to watch him post Chicago. In other words, I watched him when he was playing for the Wizards when he came here to Orlando. So
Right.
I did not see, Jordan in his prime. But still, as a big Jordan fan, it was still cool for me to be able to look up and like, hey, there he is right there playing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but anyways, uh, so speaking of popular things, I guess
Okay.
first and foremost, for those of you who are here in Florida, our governor has recently moved us to phase 3 of COVID, and
Woo.
basically, it's my understanding. I'm probably oversimplifying this, but basically, we're back to pre-COVID days as far as the restrictions are lifted. Bars, restaurants, things of that nature can open up with no restrictions. Local government, municipalities, and individual stores themselves can still have mandates or things, but no regulation can be made that makes it more than 50% basically. So who knows what that's going to lead to or what that's going to entail, but what that's been doing, nice little segue here, is sparking up a debate locally, right? There's a debate happening amongst everybody, and it's been going on for quite some time. And that is mask, no mask, does it work, does it not work, do we need to do this, do we not need to? And then, of course, for those of you who have been living under a rock here in this country, anyways, because I do believe we have people listening in other countries, but if you were in America with us, then you'll know that there is a debate this evening between our incumbent president and the Democratic nominee. I don't know if they're having a third party on there. I think it's just the two of them. I will probably tune in for that just a little
Well,
bit to see
the
how much of a,
moderator.
huh?
There's always a moderator.
Yeah, there's gonna be a moderator, but I don't know if there's gonna be like an independent, right? It's just Republican Democrat, I believe.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, so I will tune in just to kind of keep an eye on things, and I'm assuming to see. I'm fully expecting to watch a car crash. To be honest with you, I think they're both going to bury themselves. I don't think they're. I don't think either one of them, at least lately, are particularly good publicly and speaking publicly. So I'm expecting to see a very slow car crash. But that leads me to the idea of debate, right? And I think that a lot of people confuse the term debate, right? Like I think when people hear debate, rightfully or wrongfully, I think a lot of people immediately zero in on argument, right? Like
Right.
fighting and arguing, and that's not really debate, right?
Well,
Like
it
I
is
think,
called argument,
um,
but
touche,
argument doesn't mean argument the way we.
yeah,
When I think
um,
argument, I still think yelling.
yes, and a debate by its very nature, at least when I was in school and when I went through debate class, it is non-emotional. It's actually the antithesis to emotion. It's all factual based. Opinions don't really. An opinion is formed, and you use statistical or factual data to back up said opinion. And there is no name calling. There is no taking it personal. There is no yelling. There is none of that stuff. It's strictly. And it was an old rule of debate, and I still use it in my daily life. And that is the second you get upset, or the second you start the name call, you lost. Like as far as I'm concerned, like that means your argument wasn't good enough to stand up to my argument, and you went back to basically mudslinging, which means you ran out of intelligent conversation to have, and now you're gonna have to start basically like nanny nanny boo boo type of stuff. And so for me personally, I think that's what we're talking about today. That is just kind of like at least from a spiritual stance, right? Because it's bigger than just the microcosm of an individual debate, right? It's
Yeah.
to me, it's
Yeah.
the philosophical approach to a debate.
Right.
If I'm going to go into a debate with somebody, I'm going to try to do my best to respect your time, respect your input, respect the facts that you have deemed important enough to bring into that. Like it's like a duel of sorts almost, right? Like
Yes.
we are entering into this duel to where we both are coming with our ammunition. We're trying to prove our point, and whoever proves it better, may the better man win type situation.
Correct.
Um, but I don't think everybody approaches it that way. Um, and so I think that I believe we were talking off air prior to coming on here, and I think that a lot of our societal issues at the moment stem from our collective inability to fully see or fully appreciate the perspective of another person if it differs from our own. And I think that this debate that we're going to have this evening, I fully anticipate the two of them, sticking to their talking points for the most part. But what I'm more interested in seeing is the post debate show and all day tomorrow, when each side is going to get up and start saying who they think won and what was said and all that stuff, right? Which to me takes away from the spirit of a debate, because the things that most of them are going to be focusing on are inconsequential to the actual topic, right? They're going to be talking about what they wore, how they presented themselves, what they look like. None of that has to do with the facts that were stated or not. And I think that that's
A
what
lot
we
of
get,
spinning.
huh?
It's gonna be a lot of spinning.
Yeah, man. And so I think we should talk about that. I think we should address debates, if you will. So,
Yeah.
do you agree with that assessment? I guess that it's kind of like a almost like a verbal or mental jousting with somebody. Like it's an actual
Yeah.
duel.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah.
absolutely do. I do because um, when you debate with somebody, I mean, you have a point of view, they have a point of view, and you are each trying to argue the point of view. And I don't think that in real life, when you debate somebody, that there's a third party mediator that then calls a winner. And I think that's the problem with debates, even like what we're about to watch tonight, is like each side is going to say they won.
Yeah.
That's just the norm, unfortunately. Whereas I really think I wish it was more like sport, more like football or something like that, where you have a clear winner. Except we did have a tie this week.
Oh man, we get
But
started on
but
that.
But I think it should be measured by an independent party to have a clear winner. But you, as the American public, we as the American public, are going to be watching a debate. So that's why we wanted to talk about debate. What does it really mean? Because if someone is going to give what I already feel is my perspective, right? If I have a perspective and then I have someone just say it, the same thing that I'm thinking, all it does is further validate my perspective, right?
And I think that's what's going to happen.
Yeah. And then if someone says something contrary, I question where they got the information. So unfortunately, we're going to see a lot of that, like a lot of supposed. I like what's the new thing that you hear so much? God, and I don't know when it just showed up, but it seemed like it showed up in full force in the last 5 years. Fact check, fact check, fact check, fact check. Fact check.
Yeah.
Listen, those are still human beings that are also giving their opinion. There's zero trust on my end that anybody is truly fact checking that's independent. I still think that could be skewed because if you don't believe me, by the way, think about how many times you've seen a jury convict or not convict that you've argued.
Yeah, of course.
I don't know. Maybe there was a case even just recently that just had an opinion which is based on a bunch of facts. Because I don't know if you've ever been in trial or in a court, but there's a bunch of things thrown, right? Yep. So it can be days and days or months worth of information argued, debated, and then at the end of it, there's a verdict by peers, right? Jury. Mm-hmm. Well, all of us, we're not in those situations. We don't hear all the things, and that's what we're going to watch tonight. We're not watching months and months worth of information and facts placed upon us, and then we make a judgment upon it. We're going to watch 90 minutes of something and make a judgment based on that 90 minutes. But many of us are going to come into it already with an opinion or a judgment, much like in the case that I'm talking about, which is, again, making the world burn up, is we came into it with a preconceived notion of how it was supposed to end up. So as much as we would all like to believe that we are listeners and we want the other side to listen and we respect other people's perspective and other people's ideologies, we actually don't. As a human being, typically, we only respect our own perspective and we only respect our own thought process. And we believe anything outside of that, you're an idiot or you're something else. And I'm going to use an adjective to define you, because if you don't agree with me and you don't see it the way I just saw it, and we both just watched the same thing, but we didn't just watch the same thing. Because even if we both watch the same thing, we're both going to come out with different perspectives, because psychology already proved that in so many research projects. And that was one of the first things they taught us in Psych 101 when I went through school is you could literally have a room full of individuals watch the exact same thing and none of them are going to say the same outcome, or at least a large percentage of them are going to have different things that they saw and different things they took away. So they actually say a human being is actually the worst, witness.
So yeah,
even though it's most convincing to even though it's the most effective to a jury, right? Even though a personal witness is believable to a jury, it's never the best form of proof. DNA is a lot better, and that's why people are getting out. Because
they've done numerous studies about that, where they've shown people where they'll have a situation enacted in front of them, and then afterwards go and ask everybody what they saw, and they're almost always all universally incorrect.
Right. Well, my cousin Vinny. I always think of my cousin Vinny.
Yeah. We're all very unreliable.
What?
Yeah. We're all extremely unreliable, because what we don't realize is, like you just pointed out, no matter what the situation is, whether you realize it or not, and we did a show on this, a long time ago, actually, that's implicit bias.
Right.
And that is, we already come into every situation, even though it looks like we have our listening ears on, we really don't, right? As you point out numerous times, you have your pause button on. Right. You're not listening to understand whoever it is that is talking. Right. You're listening, you're just stopping talking, waiting for your turn to talk again. That's really all you're doing. You're not listening. You're just, all you're hearing is wah, 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 wah. You might hear one or two words that really trigger you. And then now when it's your turn to talk, you're going to come full force and you're going to focus in on that one or two word that you didn't like and not their whole point.
Absolutely.
And I see that happen time and time and time again. And I don't think tonight's going to be any different, man. I think that everybody is going to go into this. That's why I was talking to I have a client I train, and her and I were talking politics the other day. And I think we should just go ahead and have the election now. Because I don't think anything that's going to happen during debate or anything that's going to happen in subsequent
Oh,
months of
really?
time.
Oh, I disagree.
I don't
Oh,
think
I
anything. I think
seriously.
people are already
Oh,
made
I
up their
see.
mind who they like and
No,
don't like. Really,
no,
who have you met that's
no,
legitimately on the
no,
fence?
no. I think there's a lot of people that are legitimately on the fence. To be
And what
honest
are
with
they
you.
waiting on? What have they told you that they're waiting on? What is the one thing that's going
Oh,
to,
I'm not having these conversations. I just really do believe there's a lot of. I think the both there's a lot of people that feel 100% that they're going to vote a certain way,
right?
but I think something can jar them. I think there can be
Maybe,
something that can jar them. There's
maybe.
look, these things change for a reason. Now, I'm not saying a huge percentage points, but just enough in the right areas of the country. Remember, if you're in California and you're in New York, then nobody cares. By the way, just so you know, if you're in New York or California, nobody cares. We know how New York's going to vote. We know how California's going to vote. But if you're in Florida, if you're in Michigan, if you're in Pennsylvania,
The swing states.
all of a sudden, now all of a sudden, this debate means something because there are some people that traditionally have always voted a certain way.
Right.
They may vote differently this time. You know what I mean?
Um,
And so
maybe.
given the right scenario where you can see the leaders in front of you, you might say, wow, one is definitely presidential, or I get that. At least that person's being honest. At least they seem strong enough to represent us in the world stage. And you might look at one and go, ooh, I wouldn't hire that person to run anything. Now, we do know that there's a lot of jerk offs that run very powerful companies.
Yeah.
Being a jerk off does not disclude you from being a president of the United States. But being unable, that's a big deal. I feel that a lot of people are watching this like a train wreck, man. I think that the train
That's what
wreck that
I'm tuning in for.
yeah, but I think the train wreck is going to be one. I think a lot of us are watching just to see what's going to come out of Trump's mouth, and two, is Biden going to crumble like we fear he might, and that might be really sad. I mean,
Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to see tonight.
I don't know. I don't
It's
know, bro,
been.
but an hour and a half, dude. Have you ever seen Biden not get upset and not threaten to kick somebody's butt or something like that when he's challenged? That that
I'm gonna be
gets
honest with you. The last few
frustrated.
times I've seen him speak, he doesn't seem to know where he's at or what he's doing.
But
But
when he's confronted even by a crowd, even in his own little
right,
things, the dude gets upset quick, man. He's like one of us, like one of our boys, like all of a sudden he's calm and cool and he's the Dharma guy 1 minute and the next minute he's like, well, you want to take it outside? It's like, whoa, wait a
right,
minute, Joe. You're 70 years old, bro.
right.
So
I
I
think
think that's the interesting thing.
yeah, I'm definitely going to tune in because I'm curious just to see. But I think back to the just
Spiritual side.
the idea of a debate, right? Um, I believe that is part of our issue is when we enter into a debate. First and foremost, I don't think people nowadays really respect a debate anymore. There was when I was in school and I had to go through debate class. It was a very respected thing. Like everybody who was in there, they respected the idea and the integrity of a debate. Like it was taken seriously. Like you had to argue for or against. These
Right,
were your points, and you had to keep your calmness. You had to keep cool about things. You couldn't
right.
start hurling mud at somebody. You couldn't take it
Yeah.
personal. You couldn't get emotional. And if you did, you lost. It was all about the substance of the argument. And it seems like in today's world, we it's all about whether I already agree or not,
Right.
right? Like I pride myself on. There's numerous situations where I've been into that I think you and I have even been in debates for something as simple as like Tom Brady, right? Like I don't really think he's that great, right? However,
Hey,
I
bro.
I pride myself
Doing
on
pretty
being
good
able
now.
to say to somebody like if they make a good point, even if I don't agree with your overall argument, I can
Right.
at least acknowledge, you know what, that was a good point. Like, but it doesn't
Yep.
seem like a lot of people are willing to do that these days because it's like so many people feel as if I acknowledge that you made a good point, then suddenly my argument is completely, and that's just not true. Your
Right.
argument can be great and awesome,
Right.
but somebody else could have a point that's like, you know what, that's a great point. I still feel my way and I still feel I'm justified, but you made a good argument. We don't respect the argument anymore.
So
Go
so
ahead.
let's go to that because yeah, we've had a pretty good one about that. And like so I can agree as much as I'm not a Joe Montana fan. I mean, I'm just
Right.
not. But you can't disagree that Joe Montana was a great quarterback. You
Yeah.
you can't do that. Now, you can, if you're a true hater, and what I call a hater is somebody who just ignores facts,
Right.
right? Not just because you don't like somebody. That's not a hater. A hater is someone that just ignores facts and hates somebody for no really good reason whatsoever. And I think there are some haters out there on Tom Brady. And to me, when you talk about Tom Brady, you present more as a hater rather than even acknowledging that the guy has to perform a certain way to get what he's got, right? So that's why we had the debate. And so I think the fun thing about debate is, I know when I took the classes, I had to I didn't get to choose a side. Like they
Yeah.
would hand it to you.
Yep.
You have this side and you have that side. And I remember specifically one time, I don't remember the whole deal. I wish I did, but I remember getting one and being like, "Oh my god," because I think it was like I think it was a anti-drug something, or it was like anti-marijuana or something like that. And it was right at the time. I'm selling pot at the time, and I'm like, "Oh,
Right.
geez, and really?" And I got to argue against it, you know. So
Yeah.
that was hard. It was really
Yeah. Yeah.
hard. And so what I'd like to do is, since we're talking about it from a spiritual perspective, right, is I want to encourage everybody, before you watch this tonight, truly try to argue for the other side, even just mentally. Just try to argue the other point, even mentally. And but honestly, not sarcastically like a Bill Maher or something like that. That I thought, by the way, Bill Maher, I think, crossed the line recently when he was
Uh-oh.
talking about the justice, the Supreme Court justice that they're trying to bring in. Um, but I think when you talk about somebody, you have to respect um, the other opinion, like we're talking about. But so try to argue it internally in your mind, and just try to say, all right, if I wasn't being sarcastic about it, and I was really trying to respect it and trying to convince the other side that what it is right, just do it and see what comes up in your head. Because I think one of the issues that I'm having right now during this whole 4 years is I do see it. I got to admit, I'm a channel flipper. So I go from CNN. I don't go to the third, MSNBC. I stopped going to MSNBC like 3 years ago because that was really hardcore. But I go from CNN to Fox, right? And I flip. And that's how I do. I love doing that. Um, Unfortunately, on one of those channels, and it might start with a C, you never hear anything positive about the last 4 years. Nothing, zero. I don't think I've ever flipped on that channel and watched them do a positive story of something. And so you lose your validity. So here's the thing about debate. In debate, like you said, you have to be able to say, you know what, Tom Brady does have to go perform. So yes, the coach is phenomenal. There's no
Sure.
denying that the coach, the system, and all that is phenomenal. There's no denying that. I agreed with you on that point. What I disagreed with you on that point is that any monkey can do it. And Tom Brady is a very special monkey, right? He gets in there and he doesn't just dance like he's supposed to dance. The dude performs, and that is what makes him good. Not just that it's a great system, but you have to be able to perform on game day, and he's able to do that. Now, Mahomes has the same system as well. There's a great system in place for Mahomes, right?
Sure.
So, but it's another magical thing. You have a great system, great play calling, great everything. You got a great defensive coordinator, great offensive coordinator, great coach, and Mahomes. Boom. You have the if there was a quad factor, it'd be a quad factor, right? You have all four great. And I think you had the similar situation in New England, but to a lesser degree. I'm not trying to compare Tom Brady to how good of a quarterback Mahomes is, but he was good enough to be able to do what they do, and he's definitely no chump. And so that's why you have to be able to say somebody's really good
Sure.
at what they do. Mind you, I'm not a Patriots fan. I'm a Pittsburgh fan. But even I can say, look, I will take certain quarterbacks over our Big Ben any day. And
Sure.
even though Ben is a really good quarterback, I struggle with even calling him a great quarterback. And look, I wear this, and I struggle with calling Ben a great
Sure.
quarterback because yes, I'm biased, but I still have some opinions that are serious opinions that are contrary to my own emotional attachment to the Steelers.
Well, and you know what? Well, first off, Richard just made a comment. Yes, I do remember debate class. That's what we're talking about. And Marissa made a comment that I want to touch on because I think that's a very, very important point that she just made. She just said, in too many debates now, people get mad if they can't change their mind. And I think that is part of it, right? I think people go into it. The spirit of a debate isn't necessarily to change your mind. It's to make my argument sound and fully. If you change your mind, great, because there's so many factors that go into changing somebody else's mind. It's not just good information. You know, it's got to come organically a lot of times. It's got to be a moment for them, and it's almost never going to be in an actual debate setting. We've
Yeah.
said it numerous times in a joking manner, but have you ever been in a relationship type of argument? Has anybody ever really changed their stance in the middle of a heated argument? No, it just doesn't happen.
Well, my
You
wife
change
still thinks she's right, and like
exactly.
what, 27 years later, she still thinks
So
she's right.
yeah, so like going into a debate, your goal shouldn't be to change somebody's mind. Your goal should be to control yourself and just stick to the facts, right? I'm going to do my argument, and if I change your mind, great. But my point is just to make good, back up my stance,
Right.
and intelligently and effectively. If I change your mind, great. If I don't, whatever.
Right.
But I think that's part of it. Is I do think that the pure essence of a debate has been lost. The
Right.
essence of a debate isn't to change that person's mind, because even winning, when they judged the debate winning, you didn't change anybody's mind. The criteria for winning debate wasn't was it effective in changing somebody's mind. The criteria was always, were the facts justifiable? Did they the facts that you brought up actually justify your stance and your points? Was it intelligible? Was it all these things that have nothing to do with actually changing the mind of whoever was listening? That's how you decided who won.
Well, I think we've seen in the recent year that because of people's lack of ability to debate or being really good at debate, it changed the primaries considerably because you didn't come into it with a bunch of preconceived notions. So in those debates, you get more of a variance, right? You get more
Right.
of a difference between pre-debate and post-debate. In this one, it's going to be a lot smaller unless one of these really go off. And
Right.
I think the reason so many of us are going to watch is because the potential of someone really going off is high. I mean, I don't think I've
Yeah.
ever been looking forward to a debate, a political debate, ever.
Yeah.
And I'm serious. But I am so looking forward to this one because I don't want to be hearing about it from the spinners tomorrow. I
Yeah.
don't want to hear a spin. I don't give a damn about your spin. I don't give a damn about anybody's opinion on what they saw. I want to witness it for myself, and I want to be there and go, oh my God, did he just say that? Oh my God, look at him. I want
Right.
all as if I'm watching the football game that I watched last night, just like I was watching that. That I love both those quarterbacks. I love Mahomes. I love Jackson, but I have to admit the outcome was what I didn't know that I had that desired outcome, but I felt it as I was watching the game and as Kansas City was kicking around Baltimore, I realized, oh, I know why I'm enjoying it more because I'm a Steelers fan, and so I instinctually do not like the Ravens. So I do want Mahomes to win, but not because I like Mahomes better than Lamar. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with one represents Kansas City and the other represents the Devils themselves, which is the Ravens. And so do you follow what I'm saying though?
Sure.
You have to
Sure.
be able to recognize your bias.
Of course.
And I think that's where I wish that just more of us just admitted it, like going into it. You know how when people
Yeah.
like this, like for instance, when people go, all right, like I'm not trying to be rude or anything.
Yeah, you
Like if
are.
they say that,
That usually
yeah,
precedes something really, really rude.
right. I wish that we would say something like that. I mean, like just know that you're going into it with that. Just
Yeah.
know that you're going into watching tonight with a preconceived desire to see an outcome a certain way. Also, I am sure that we could write the headlines for this debate already, and I
Yeah.
guarantee you it's already written.
Yeah. Of course.
Guarantee.
Well,
Guarantee.
as an example, I watched a video earlier this morning where a gentleman went into what looked to be a very liberal crowd, I'll say, and they were let's just say watching the video, you could kind of tell that they didn't like Trump based upon what they're talking about and how they
Yep.
conducted themselves. And so the guy went into these little, it was like a park, and they were all talking, and he went to each one of them and he said, "Look, I'm gonna read off some quotes and I'm gonna get your opinion on them from Trump." So he read off quotes, and they of course were like flabbergasted that these things would come out of Trump's mouth, and they were just atrocious and laughable, and like, oh my gosh, whoever's, they doesn't see, that's positive, he doesn't need to be president, he shouldn't lead our country, all these just horrible things about the quotes that were said. But then at the very end, he says, okay, well, now is your perspective going to change if I tell you that those quotes are actually from Biden and not from Trump? And it was interesting to see the backpedaling that took place. I think there was only one guy that was like, you know what, you're right, you got me. There was only one guy that just was able to acknowledge that his biases completely took over and won. Everybody else tried to backpedal and tried to figure out ways of spinning it to where they would come out on top. It was like, well, Biden's not great, but we got to get him. Like, no, dude, you just said that the person who said that is no better than Trump. And now you're going to vote for them strictly because of your own biases, which is fine, but just admit it. You know what I mean? Like, and that's the thing that you and I have always talked about, that we all do have our own biases, and we should actively work in minimizing those biases, but we should also acknowledge that they're there and realize that your opinions are based upon biases. And so before you start going completely off and just all in on that opinion, pump the brakes just a little bit and try to look at it objectively. Try to seriously just forget who the message is coming from. Right. Listen to the message and the actual argument for or against whatever it is. And if you still feel that way, fine. But it should be based more on the merit of the argument and less on your own biases. And that, I agree with you, is what we're going to see tonight. Right. And I think that what we're going to see tonight is no matter who says what, which I fully anticipate a car crash. I do. I fully anticipate both of them being what we would deem more than 4 years ago non-presidential. Now, granted, you could argue that if a president does it, it's thereby presidential. But regardless, what our preconceived notions and our criteria of what is or isn't presidential over 4 years ago, neither one of them are going to live up to that standard, I believe, this evening. And I don't know.
So you like?
I don't think either one of them are going to be classy or whatever. I think they're both going to just.
But that's the point. But that's the point, right? Word, even that word presidential. I don't want anyone to be presidential. Do you know why? Because presidents have always been jerk-offs and liars. I have never ever felt like a president was the I don't know, the leader compass of what should be right. Yeah, the moral person. I mean, dude, Kennedy was cheating on his wife, man.
His brother killed his girlfriend.
He's Chappaquiddick, man. You know what I mean? So I never looked. I never could understand why all of a sudden, out of the blue, we all got convinced that somehow the president was supposed to be some sort of morally correct person. Isn't the whole joke that Washington's full of hookers for a reason? The reason there's so many prostitutes in Washington is because all the politicians in Washington. Haven't we for years said lawyers are liars? Haven't we for years said politicians just say whatever they got to say to get elected and then never fulfill their promises? Yeah. We used to say this stuff like it was. Now all of a sudden, if you all of a sudden landed on this planet, you would think that every president prior to Trump was a morally good person that always spoke the truth and that always fulfilled their promises. What? Yeah. We're actually now supposed to believe that a person that is smart enough to how to use the tax code that all of us use, by the way, I'm going to pay as little as taxes as I want to. And I'm jealous that I don't know the tax code as good as Trump. God dang it, he paid only $750 in taxes. Even that, we should be going like, damn.
Well, not only that, I don't really anticipate Trump doing his own taxes either, by the way. I'm pretty sure he pays somebody to do that for him.
The point is that if it was illegal, that's one thing. But because you're good at what you do, we should be like going, whoa, I want to know how to do that. Plus, that's not the only taxes. By the way, property taxes, that's where I pay a hell of a lot of taxes, property taxes. And I guarantee you, if you own buildings and you own property, you know what I'm talking about. You pay property taxes, and that's what pays for the schools and the fire and the cops and all that stuff. So it's not – so even that stuff like that, just the real reality stuff. It's like, dude, debates, like you said, may influence people to sway a little bit, but it's typically only going to influence those that are really, truly sitting on the fence. What I want to do is what I'm trying to do to prepare for tonight, Trinity, is I'm trying to get as close to the middle on the fence as I was in 2016. In 2016, I was truly right there. And what pushed me over the edge was there was a female running for president. And so I didn't want to hear I didn't want to be convinced to vote any other way other than, wow, wouldn't it be cool to have Bill back in office? Wow, wouldn't it be cool to have a female president? I just thought that was just a cool thought. You know what I mean? And
Right.
remember, after the vote, I even told you for months and months, you and I didn't reveal to anyone who we voted for because there was such craziness about it.
Yeah.
So, but the only time I started revealing it is because everybody started thinking because of what I was saying, they were like, "Oh, you must have voted for Trump." I said, "Oh, well, then I got something to tell you." No, brother, I didn't. However, I would vote for him today because you're being a jerk off of the way you're seeing it. You can't even call game when you see game. I at least respect game when I see game. So if somebody I think is doing doing something well, I'm going to tell you you're doing something well, and I'm not going to say you're not doing well just because you're not my dude. You're not my guy. I think that's
Right.
I think that's childish. I think that's ridiculous. And what I really hate is because I grew up with racism. So when I hear people call someone a racist without any evidence of that, that really threw me over because I'm like, that racist word to me is a very serious, serious word. And I think there's some truly racist people in this country.
Sure.
So as soon as you start throwing it to everybody that just doesn't agree with you, you lost me right there, man. And I can't believe anything you got to say. And then when I see a party tell me I got to vote a certain way because I'm Mexican, culero, estás loco. Yo no voy a votar así nomás porque soy mexicano. Vete al carajo, cabrón.
Well,
Anyway.
the other thing I would say is from a spiritual standpoint too, though, and I think this is probably one of the most important takeaways to have from today. I mean, we're not close to being done yet, but my happiness, my sense of inner peace and well-being is not predicated upon what happens in this election, who wins or who doesn't, what
I don't know.
debate, what outcome happens. I'm going to be me, and I'm going to be happy. I can
Man.
have things that I agree or disagree with, but that doesn't dictate my happiness. So we collectively have got to learn how to get our inner peace, and it comes from within. It does not come from without. If you're basing your happiness and your peace on an outcome of an election or an outcome of a debate, you're going to be an awfully upset person your entire life
Yes.
because those
Yes.
things change every day. Though
Yes.
what it's always going to be in flux.
Yes.
What needs not be in flux is your peace and your
Yes.
happiness. And
Yes.
you got to learn how to be content and at peace, regardless of what's happening around you. You have to
Right.
learn how to digest that. There are plenty of things that I've seen going on in the political world and in the social world and everything else that I like, and plenty of things I don't like.
Right.
I'm still good, man. Because you know why? I control me. I control my response and my reaction to things. Do I see a ton of people out there doing horrible things? Sure.
Right.
But you know what that means? That means when I go out of my house, I go out of my way to not do horrible things. Those people are who they are, they're going to do them, but I'm not. I'm going to continue to live my life based upon the code of honor and integrity
Right.
and loyalty that I believe in. Everybody else, that's what you got to make that decision for yourself.
Right.
And so, yes, there's going to be sometimes in my lifetime I've seen plenty of political things happen that I thought were great and amazing.
Right.
But I've also seen plenty of things happen that I thought were atrocious and horrible. But
Right.
I still woke up the next day. I still have to get my kids up for school. I still have to, mow my lawn. I mean, I still have to live my life. And I think too many people are basing their happiness based upon the outcome of something that you have zero control over. And
Yeah.
then that's the problem. Back to what Marissa's point was, and that is, don't go into a debate expecting, to change somebody's mind. Like if that's your definition of win, you already lost.
The you know what disturbs my happiness? When I'm driving down a boulevard and I pass what I need to get to, and then so I need to do a U-turn, and I get to a place where I can do a U-turn, and it says no U-turn. And so I go to the next one, and it says no U-turn. And I get to the next one, and it says no U-turn. And then so I finally get to the light where I can take a left, and it still says no U-turn. So now I got to take a left down that road, and I got to find a place down that road to take a U-turn. Just because the last three places I couldn't do a U-turn. At the light I couldn't do a U-turn. I had to go down into some store, do a
Right.
U-turn in the store, and then come back. So that, my friends, is because some city commissioners run my life a hell of a lot more than the damn president. Now, I wish they would publicize local elections a hell of a lot more because I don't know. Am I the only one that I vote on name? I vote on, many other factors go into of how I vote for the rest of the people. I go in there knowing how I want to vote for the main one, but then there's like 50 other things to vote on, and I'm like, I feel like I'm taking my SAT all over again, real intoxicated Trinity. I'm just like, pow, 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 pow. And I promise I'm not going to do that this time. I promise. I'm making a promise. All right. I promise God, this time I swear I'm gonna look into it in advance, and I'm gonna have my entire ticket done in advance so I can know what I'm talking about. But it's real hard to do the research on everything because they don't make it easy. You know,
No, they
they
don't.
they they don't make it easy to know everything that's on the ticket. And even then, it's like skewed. Like it says, well, do you want this money for the little kids? But they don't tell me that if I say yes, I want to give money to the little kids, but it's also gonna put like an oil field in my backyard. You know, like they attach
Yeah.
things. They attach things. You know what I mean? So the
Yeah,
miles.
we actually.
That is Washington. That is Tallahassee. That is government. It attaches something that
Yeah.
you want with something the hell you don't want because they all have agendas.
Yep.
And so that is why I don't mind, because on this time, this is the first time ever where I know I can watch anything Trump, and I know damn well he's going to say something that sounds offensive. I know he's going to say that it's the best ever. I know he's going to say like you've never seen before. I mean, it's just so predictable of how he talks, right? But at least I know he's the one talking. Whereas unfortunately, Trinity on this other dude, I'm like, this guy's been in office for 47 years. If he believed in all that crap, then why the hell are we still in this position? You know what I mean?
Well,
That is the swamp, man.
I have this year I've chosen to do mail-in ballots, so I'll be able to actually look at what's on there and research it before I even send my ballot in, which is great. Because there's been plenty of times where I've gone in there and I've been well versed on, let's say, 80% of them. And then out of left field, there'd be like a name or an amendment that I'm
Yeah.
like, what is that? And then I'm
Yeah.
forced to, in that 30 seconds, read it and just make a judgment call. And
Right.
as an example, one of the things that has been, I believe it's on this ballot, Governor DeSantis just came out and said it's the like the Law Enforcement Protection Act or something like that.
Well,
And a lot of the stuff that's worded on that, I haven't seen the actual ballot, but a lot of that stuff I kind of agree with, but I don't like the fact that it's very vaguely written. And so I don't readily know how my immediate gut response is hell yeah, I like that.
yeah.
But the lawyer in me, right? The person who's been in a lot of trouble in my life
Yeah.
immediately says, "Wait a minute, how is that defined?" Right? Because you can take that a whole different direction.
Yeah.
So I believe in the spirit of it, but I would like for it to be worded, as clearly as we can,
It's
to
it's and
and
it's
it
not.
won't be.
It's not, and it doesn't have everything in it that's part of it. And
Yep.
I learned that from my brother. My brother's an attorney, and even though we agree on so many things, but we disagree heavily on certain really key points. And so up to this point, I've always asked him, "Hey Jimmy, you explain it to me." And Jimmy's really good at explaining it, man. Here's this, and Jimmy's very open. Like he'll explain it both ways, or he'll ask you questions like, "Well, what do you think about this?" And I like the way he asks it. He's like, "What do you think about this?" And then you'll say, "I want this." All right, well then this is your guy. What do you think about this? Blah blah blah. All right, well then you want to say no on this.
Right.
But lately, it's gone from those kinds of conversations to now everybody's just saying, "No, you got to do this. You got to do this." Like it's like whoa. So now for the first time, it's like we need like a website where you really just truly answer questions, and then it just like tell you how to vote. Now I
Right.
did that before. I want to say 3 years ago. I got to figure out what that site is. My brother probably knows what it is. It was like an app where I answered a
Right.
bunch of questions, and it told me who I would likely vote for based on my answers. And I thought it taught me a lot, actually. It was very
Yeah.
enlightening. And it showed me that I was in the middle. It kind of said what I am. It says, "Oh, you're blah blah blah," like right in the middle.
Right.
But I used to always vote out the judges. Like all the incumbents, I would say, "Bah,"
See ya.
because of that criminal side of me back from the back. I'm bah 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 bah. My brother said, "Well, what are you doing?" Because I told him, and he's like, "You can't do that. There's some really good people that do really well. You got to look more into it." And I was like, "Dang it, looking into it, that takes work, man." And
What's your civic
so
duty?
yeah, with civic duty, man. So I don't know, man. I'm not vote. I'm not. I'm surprised you're trusting the mail. I'm not trusting the mail with the crap. It's like trusting a hanging Chad, and I remember going through that here in Florida, and my precinct before was the one that lost votes. Was the one that had him in the trunk of someone's car. My precinct
Jesus.
had the hanging Chad issues as well. So now I'm in a
I
new precinct.
I
So I want to go
believe
there
that
and
there's
physically
a
vote for
special
myself.
box I could go put them in too, though. I don't have to put it in the mail. I believe
Dude,
there's a box that I can go physically dump it in, and then there's something online where you can track it or something like that.
I get so many texts and emails about votes, and how
Right.
to and how to get my ballot and do it. And oh, you want your ballot, right? You want to mail your ballot out. And dude, oh, come on, man. My wife worked in an old folks home, right? And I remember when we were really young, and she would tell me, man, it's really sad, Louis. She came home and told me one day that the nurses were actually voting for the elderly people. They would have the elderly people just sign their initials on these ballots. And I was like, man, that really sucks. And that probably happens all over the country,
Oh,
where
sure.
you have workers at whether it be a family member or a worker or somebody else voting for elderly people. So that's already happened.
Sure.
So now you're just going to masses. Oh, hell no, man. Come on now. I want to go there. I want to know that my vote was counted, regardless of how it turns out. But I can assure you this, Trinity, regardless of how it turns out, I'm going to respect whoever wins, and I'm going to say, hey, man, you did it.
Sure.
You did it. Good for you.
And that, to me, I think is the spirit of what we're talking about here, man. I mean, at the end of the day, we are part of a democracy, right? You know,
Right.
and what we've collectively agreed upon is every 4 years, half the country's going to be upset and the other half is going to be happy.
Yep.
And that's what we've collectively agreed upon. Regardless of your individual stances on things, as a society, the
Yep.
majority rules, right? And that's how we've, and oh, God, I don't want to make this a political show. I really don't. But I do have to
How can now? We're
comment.
talking about debate. Let's debate it.
I do have to comment though about this idea of everybody saying that Hillary won the popular vote or whatever. No, this country was founded by some very, very smart individuals. The Electoral College is there for a reason. Without the Electoral College, California and New York would basically decide every single thing that happened from here on out. And if you're in the middle of the country, your opinion just would not count. We don't want that. And I'll give you a very brief example of what I mean by that, where it legitimately happened to me in real life and affected my actual day. So we were talking about the Postal Service. I am anti-Postal Service. I worked there for 11 years. I know exactly how inept they are. I get it. Um, in the
And yet
United
you're
States,
trusting them with your ballot.
no. Like I said, I think there's a box I can actually go put it in, and then you can track it and stuff. But regardless, I digress. So at the Postal Service, we were unionized, right? And in our local district, there was like 4 or 5 different postal services that we did. And when I say postal service, most people think mailman delivering stuff. The Postal Service is so much bigger than your carrier. The actual Postal Service, there's facilities that the mail is flown into, and then it's divvied up between all the different zip codes and stuff, and then it goes out to those individual things. So I worked in one of those big hubs. There's a lot of people in there. We were probably like the third largest one here locally, right? The largest one was over by Trayport, by the airport. The other one is in Reinhardt Road, over there in Sanford area. I was the third largest one, and we had a union. And the problem that we were running into is the union president, in order for him to maintain his position as a president, he only needed X a number of votes, and there was enough of those votes in the top 2 buildings that as long as he won the majority of those 2 buildings, he would win no matter what. And so what that meant was, being the fact that I was in the third largest building, we never saw him. He never showed up to. He showed up maybe once a year to our facility, and then when we would file grievances, he would then use our grievances as negotiation to win the grievances in those other 2 buildings. So we would be like, "Hey, what happened to my grievance?" Like, "Well, it was thrown out because of X, Y, and Z." No, what happened was when they were negotiating in the step twos or the step threes, they were making the people in those top 2 buildings win and losing mine. Why? Because I didn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how I voted or if I was upset or if I was happy.
Right.
He was going to maintain his position as president. So what ended up happening was he completely ignored everybody whose vote didn't count. And all he cared about was those 2 buildings. So whatever those 2 buildings want, whatever mattered to them, that's what happened. And what ended up happening in our building is the union was completely destroyed. People were breaking rules left and right. Everybody that was upset, and it created very bad morale. That is a microcosm of what would happen if we got rid of the Electoral College in the United States of America. In the United States of America, whether you like him or not, if you look at the map when Trump won, he won. I mean, the whole map was red, minus a few little blue areas. It just so happened that those blue areas that he won were densely populated, meaning there's a lot of people there, and you kind of
Yeah.
all probably have similar thoughts and ideas, so you're all kind of probably going to vote in a similar way.
Right.
But the
Right.
person who lives over here doesn't think the same way you do,
Right.
doesn't have the same life that you do, so things matter to them differently. And so that's why we have the electoral college. Without the electoral college as a candidate for United States of presidency, all you would go to is the most densely populated areas, which are going to be your big cities, things like New York,
Right.
California,
California,
maybe even
Miami.
Chicago, Miami,
Yep.
if in Florida. So in Florida, if you don't live in Miami, nobody cares what you think. And
Yeah.
and if you live in those cities, great, that's awesome. I get what I want. But if you don't live in those cities, you're gonna be pretty pissed off every
Right.
single election because you're like, why even vote? My vote doesn't matter. It
Right.
doesn't, and it might sound like an okay thing if you're on the winning side, but what you don't realize is a lot of those people, what they do impacts everything that we do. Those middle America people, a lot of them are our farmers. A lot of them is what supply everything that we have. We need them to do well.
Yeah.
So it has to be a balance. It has to
Yeah.
be sometimes we win and get what we want. Sometimes they do. It's got to work it out, right? And it's much in the same way as a relationship. He joked about it earlier, but if I had my way, I think I'm right all the time in my marriage. Absolutely. I'm always right. I wouldn't speak unless I was right. But I got to be honest, there's been many a times where I walked into a situation thinking I was 100% right. My wife completely disagreed with me, and afterwards, I got to eat crow. And I'm like, you know what? Yeah, she was right on that one.
Yeah.
She
Yeah.
was totally right, and I have to
Right.
like, damn. Whereas if we just went with my way, that situation would have done completely differently and potentially worse had I
Right.
not listened to her. And I'm humble enough to realize, you know what? Like I'm gonna turn to my wife more often than not and get her perspective because a lot of times she sees it from a completely different angle that turns out to be right. That's why we have the electoral college. That's why it's important. Don't let your upset and your disappointment cloud the overall judgment of some very, very intelligent people who built this country. We gotta have the electoral college. I get it. You don't like Trump. You're entitled to do that, and you can speak that way with your vote. But
Right.
understand the system itself is there for a reason, and don't let one election or possibly two ruin the entire country. Like that's not how democracy works. And to me, that is kind of in a roundabout way the essence of debate, right? Is don't let your clouded vision of what you want, destroy the mechanism that you're using. Don't get
Yeah.
so hyped up and so emotional that you lose your inner peace over a meaningless argument that you're never going to change their mind in the first place. Keep your inner peace, have your argument, have your debate and whatever it is, but at the end of the day, walk away and agree to disagree and move into your separate corners and live your life. My
Yeah, and I
choice.
know people exactly, and I know people are going to say, well, electoral college needs to be changed and gerrymandering and all that stuff. Well, yeah, but that same electoral college and gerrymandering still elected Obama to 2 terms.
Yeah.
So you have to respect that. It always has flip flopped. It goes Democrat for a while, then it goes Republican for a while, then it goes Democrat for a while, then Republican for a while, Democrat for a while. So regardless of whether you believe in it or not, you notice the only time you really speak up is when you lose. Losers are always upset and frustrated and look for a reason why. You lose because you lost. You lost, man. That's it. And you know what? You'll win next time. There'll come a time you'll win.
Sure.
I guarantee that the other side will always mess up. Like I think the other side messed up on this one. I think that the Democrats had a great opportunity to take these years and really bring us a stellar candidate. Instead of that, they're trying to live off Obama. They're still trying to bring back Obama. By Biden, they think they're getting Obama. You're not getting Obama with Biden. I'm sorry, man. You're just not. Biden is not Obama, just like Pence is not Trump. You think Pence would win alone without Trump? No, he wouldn't. No, man. That's so please, we can't do stupid things and expect a better outcome. You know what I mean? If you have somebody that's and here's the thing, I've seen some good people recently that are real lower. Like I can't wait till these lower ones get enough respectability in their groupings so that they rise to the top. I got a feeling that 4 years from now we're going to see the best battle.
Yeah, I think
I
so
think
too.
right now we're going to see a serious battle, but it's going to create emotion no matter which way. But the real battle is going to be 4 years from now.
Yeah,
Whereas you have
I think so.
all the young blood. Because what do we have here? We still have old white men. For all you people that are like, oh, we shouldn't all just have old white men, old white men. And that was the best you did, though. The best you did is you put up an old white man. Not only just an old white man. You put an old white man that's got some serious questionable issues of his past voting, of how his family has taken advantage of his situation, of his mental health. I mean, you went far, and one that selected somebody just because they were a black female. Which, by the way, as a Mexican, I know I've gotten some jobs back in the day just because I'm a Latino, because I spoke Spanish. So you wanna have me do something just because I'm Latino and I speak Spanish? I'll take advantage of that every damn day. Of course I'll use it. But do I believe that as a practice? No. I think hiring me just for that reason is just as racially bad as you not hiring me for that reason, to be honest with you. Equality is equality. What we want is equality, not special treatment, not special outcome. And if you're out there and you're brown like me and you want a special outcome rather than special treatment, then that's on you. But that's not what I'm asking for. I just want the same treatment. I don't want special treatment. Unless it's like going first in line at Disney, then I'll want special treatment.
I'll take some special treatment. I'm not gonna turn it down.
Like I said, I'll take it,
Yeah,
but
I'll
that's
take
not
it.
what I want philosophically.
No, of
I'll
course
always
not.
take it. But philosophically or spiritually, I want to be thought of as sane. But unfortunately, we get used, man. We're always used as a pawn. It's always the Spanish vote and the black vote and the elderly vote and the gay vote and
And
the
the women's
women's
vote.
vote.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever group you belong to, you get used as a little pawn. I mean, but I'm not a pawn, man. I don't. If I were voting just on one issue, then there's no way Trump would win, because there's no way I would vote for Trump, because on an immigration situation, I think he's wrong in so many ways of immigration. I think that needs to be reformed in a great deal. So I don't like what he did with the what's the act? Oh my God, the Dreamers.
The
The
DACA.
Dreamers. Yeah, I don't like what he did with DACA. I was very upset about that. I just don't like it. But I'm no longer a one issue voter. So it has to go on to several things that affect me financially. It has to affect me professionally. It has to affect addiction and recovery, mental health issues, substance abuse issues, and stuff like that. I have to look at a broader spectrum of ideology. I can't simply be, because I'm Latino, I'm gonna vote. This is not a boxing match. In a boxing match, I can always go for the Latino. It's a fact. I always do. I'm biased. Boxing, I always go for Latino. In football, I always go for the Steelers. Sorry, I'm allowed to be biased, but when it comes to the presidency, no. I'm not going to be so simple-minded and ever do that again. I did that last time when I voted for Hillary. I'm never going to do that again. I'm going to do a lot more research and understanding, and I'm going to vote for who I feel best represents or best can get me what I want. For my family. Because at the end of the day, I'm 50. I don't have many more of these damn elections that I'm going to live through. My voice is not going to mean as much later on. And because if, according to the way it's going to go, my kids are going to end up making me sign a document and say, I just got my dad to vote who I wanted to vote for, because I'm going to be senile.
It's very optimistic of you. Yeah, man. So I think definitely, the spirit of a debate. I do believe we've got to just stop coming in with our own biases, and admit that you have them. And so that way, no matter what the debate might be,
Yeah.
because obviously this election is going to be over soon, right? And tonight's debate will be over, but you're going to have to still wake up tomorrow, and you're going to have to still deal with your friends and your family. And some of them, they're going to disagree with you, and some of them are going to agree with you. You're going to have disputes with loved ones and stuff. Completely void of any political discussions. It could just be basic things, and each one of those are a miniature debate. And each one of those things, you're going to have to come into it realizing you have biases and understand what is the end goal here, man. You want to be right or do you want to be happy? And that's kind of how I try to stay focused. Do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? My mom told me one of the smartest things my mom's ever told me in my entire life, and has stuck with me forever, other than think before you act. The thing that she told me, and the funny part too is it never made sense to me until now, like when I'm getting older. As I've gotten older, as I've gotten kids, as I've been married, they were such words of wisdom, and I don't think she created them. Obviously, I think they've been around for a while, but she obviously passed them on to me, and it was something that God, dude, I just did not understand when I was younger. Right? When I was younger, I was just like, no. But now that I'm older, I get it, and that is pick your battles. That is one of the wisest things that I've ever heard in my entire life. Not every single thing that comes in front of you is something that you got to charge headstrong in and win. And that was a hard thing, man, because I was a fighter, bro. I was ready. I've never met a fight that I didn't want to have. And every time I took that as an opportunity to make my stance.
Yep.
And you know what all it did? Is it got me into a lot of fights.
Yep.
That's all it did. It didn't make me happy. It didn't get me what I wanted in life. It just got me into a lot of fights, and it got me a
Mm.
reputation where people just like, man, he's an asshole, right? And so it's one of the wisest things I've ever learned in my life, man, is pick your battles. There's so many things that happen in my day-to-day life now to where people think that I don't have an opinion on. I
Right.
do. I just
Mm.
choose not to, like, I'm good.
Right.
I'm not
Right.
as concerned with that little battle as I am the whole entire war. And to me, the whole war is my inner peace. And
Right.
so having that little battle, how's that going to impact my peace? Is the risk versus reward? Is it gonna benefit me in the long run? And what I'm trying to do, is it really worth it? And sometimes it is. And that's when you'll hear me speak up and I'll put my foot down. We'll have ourselves a debate. Other times, it's not even worth it, man. You just
Right.
go ahead and do your thing, bro. I'm good. And I think that we all kind of need to get better at that. We all need to get better at just picking our battles. Some things are
Right.
worth fighting for and some things aren't. And that comes down to some of our own biases and debates and things of that nature. It all kind of ties in, man.
But
There's so
see,
many debates. I'll
but
give you an
see,
example, right? Here's an example, real quick. As soon as I leave here today, as soon as we get off the show, I gotta go to my mother-in-law's house, and I've got to pick up two beds that she's getting rid of, right? And I'm supposed to give them. I was originally supposed to give them to our son, who's not living with us. He's 20 now, right? And he wants his bed, blah blah blah. One's a king, one's a queen. My daughter, on the other hand, wants one of the beds now. As soon as she's never met something that she didn't want, right? And so she heard that they were getting rid of beds. She convinced her mom to get this little uncomfortable ass couch slash futon that we all told her was a bad idea. Now she's saying she doesn't like it, it's uncomfortable, so she's jumping at an opportunity for a bed. However, I know that room is 10 foot by 10 foot. It's a little room for her. This bed is huge. I'm trying to tell her, I know her well enough to know that she wants space to do all these things that she wants to do in a room. And I said, look, if you get that bed, I promise you, within 3 months, you're not going to want it because your room is going to be all bed. Oh no, no. So you know what I'm going to do today? I'm going to go pick up the beds. I'm going to bring them back, and I'm going to go ahead have your queen size bed in this little room, and in 3 months, she's going to look at me and she's going to know. I'm not even going to have to say I told you so. She's going to be like, I guess. So I'm not going to put up a stink about it. I'm not going to fight. I'm going to pick my battle. Because
yeah.
at the end of the day, is it really that big of a deal for me to have this fight with everybody and be that? No, it's
Right.
not. It's a trivial example, but it's an example nonetheless, and that is pick your battles, man. Some things are worth debating. Some things are worth getting fired up about. Other things, it'll work itself out, man. Life
Mm.
always wins. That's the cool thing about life. It always wins. The
Right.
bigger picture always comes out. It might not come out in the timeline that you want or have the same effect that you want, but it always comes out. That's just how life works. It just does. And so use that as an example, like going into tonight's debates and stuff. Just try to go into the debate and view it for what it is, a spectacle. Two people are going to come on, they're going to do their thing. Each person's probably going to deliver what you think they're going to deliver. It's going to be entertaining. You might learn some things, you might not. Who knows? But
Yeah.
just watch it. It is what it is. Make up your mind who you want to go for based upon who you think is going to do best for you.
Right.
That's it. It's that simple.
Well, the other key point is know that neither one of these two candidates give a shit about you for real. So
Not personally, no.
stop acting like one of them cares about you more than the other. That
Yeah.
that is such a pipe dream.
No.
That is just not reality. You know what I mean? I mean, you have to care about you. You know what I mean? I think my biggest issue, and it still is, Trinity, actually, to be honest with you. So I don't have your kind of story to be able to say I used to. I still do. Where I lose in debate is when I take it personal.
Right.
It was my problem when I was younger. Only I was a lot more reactionary younger, so of course I fought all the time because I was reactionary. So I used to try to convince my mom that, no, you don't understand. The guy called me son of a bitch. That means he's calling you a bitch, mom. And she'd be like, that person doesn't even know me, son. You know what I mean? It's like they don't know me. They're not calling me anything. But I didn't understand that. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I would get in altercations because I took everything personal. Like it must have been personal. When I was very racially motivated for argument, I mean, we did a lot of bad things to people because we thought that they were against us because we were Latino, or because they were racist. So they deserved what we were doing to them because they were racist. And then as I got older, and I married a Caucasian woman, and I met her beautiful family, and her family in Kentucky and her family in St. Louis were so loving, and they still are. They're so very loving and supportive, and they've taught me so. I am so glad that I married outside my culture. For one big reason, it opened up my eyes in a way that I don't think it would have been opened up otherwise. I got to be honest. I don't think it would have opened up my eyes any other way. And I was the kind of guy that needed it because I was very racially motivated in the way I viewed the world and the way I viewed myself and the way I responded to the world. And so what I would ask anyone to do is is please allow yourself to be a little bit more open into what you hear and what you see, and just understand that everything that you think and feel that you take personally is from your perspective because of what you were raised doing, what happened to you as a kid, what happened to you in your family, or what's happened to you since. And that doesn't necessarily make it true. That just makes it your experience. And that does have to be respected. But when you take emotion out of it and you think about something logical, I bet you would admit that when you think logically, you make better decisions. But when you think emotionally, you make not not as good decisions. And so that's what I would recommend, is
One's
to just be
definitely
a
more
little bit more.
volatile than the other.
I'm sorry?
So one's definitely more volatile than the other one, that's for
Yeah,
sure.
I still do it to this day. I mean, I can go back to when you saw me get real upset. It was on this show on Dharma Time when we were doing the show on my daughter's graduation. I was just so emotionally charged. I was so
Yes.
emotionally charged about the situation. I took it so personally that I wasn't able to even see the other side at the moment. I didn't want to see the other side at the moment. You know what I really wanted to do? I wanted to go punch somebody in the face.
Sure.
And so, I quickly let it go. After we did our show, I vented enough on our show. I vented enough during that entire that day process that typical me, by the next day, I was like, whatever. because that's all really I have to do, Trinity. For me, what I've learned is that by tomorrow, I'm going to feel very differently. It's not going to be as a big deal tomorrow because I don't hold on to shit very long. That's the beauty. I think the beauty is not that I learned how to deal with things better, but that I just simply have learned how to play me better. And to play me better is just like, tomorrow I'm not going to be the same, because to me, it's all about emotion. As long as I'm emotionally in it, watch out world. When I'm not emotionally in it, it's not a big deal.
Right on. Well, I'm gonna go ahead and do the tips real quick. I'm gonna count your last few minutes as the wrap up.
Oh, that was
Um,
definitely.
and I will say that, yeah, I think my wife is still learning that about me. That I'll let things go pretty quickly. Like I might be emotionally charged about something right now, but like 30 minutes from now, I'm good.
Yeah,
Like,
look at that. See?
oh, hold on, let me put you on here. Hold on. Go ahead. Uh, yeah, let that shit go, man.
There you go.
I think, yeah, my wife is still learning that about me. Like something will happen today, and she'll still think I'm upset like tomorrow. I'm like, man, I don't even remember what that was about.
Yeah.
So, real quickly, first and foremost, thank you everybody for tuning in today. If you're watching live here on Facebook.com/WPSN99, I appreciate it. If you're watching this on the Dharma Time YouTube or listening on the podcast, I sincerely hope that you're subscribed and you hit the little like button. We do appreciate it, and it does mean a lot. It does help us. And then on social media, you can follow him at the Dope Doctor. You can follow me at the Dharma Guy, and us at WPSN99. And while you're at it, go ahead and check out at nowmattersmore.org, or out at nowmattersmore, I guess would be the social media one. And our for those of you who are tuning in for the Hopeathon who want to check more about that, we have rescheduled it. There was so much great content that came in that we were just unable physically just to get it all done in the amount of time that we wanted to properly respect everybody's time. So we rescheduled that to November 14th. So make sure you stay tuned. We'll continue to put more out there, and I trust me, it's going to be something you're going to want to watch and pay attention to. So once again, that's going to be November 14th, the Hopeathon. If you want to know more about that, you can go to thehopeathon.com. That's thehopeathon.com, and you can kind of get an idea for what that whole thing was supposed to be about and still will be. As far as today's topic, real quickly, man, it's going to give you guys some basic tips today. First and foremost, when it comes to debate, from the philosophical or even spiritual standpoint, try to always keep in mind that truly at its essence, all a debate really is just stating facts to back up an opinion. That's all it really is. It's not a personal thing. It's not an attack. It's strictly, I have an opinion, and this is basically how I formulated my opinion. That's really all it is. The second one is understand, too, when you're in a debate with somebody, everybody has a valid point. No matter who you are, they've got a valid point. If nothing else, it's valid because that's their point. That's their perspective based upon what they live. You might not agree with it, but to them it's valid, and it's just as important to them as yours is to you. So try to come from that perspective and understanding the validity in somebody else's point. And then finally, the third and probably one of the most important ones, stop making your end goal of a debate that you get into to change somebody else's mind. That shouldn't be your end goal. Your end goal should really just be, did I adequately state how I feel and why I feel that way? That should be it. As long as you check those boxes off, you should walk away satisfied with that interaction. Because if your whole essence or your whole happiness or whatever is dictated upon your ability to change somebody else's mind, gosh, dude, you're going to be awfully upset a lot in your life. Because there's certain individuals out there, no matter what you say or do, they're never going to change their stance or how they feel on things. And you know what? That's okay. That's their right to do. Don't take that personal. It's not against you. That's just kind of where they stand on the things. So, anyways, I think that's all I got for today. Appreciate you guys tuning in, and that's all I got. So, now that you know better, do better. Peace. Are you still here? What are you doing? I told you, go do better.